Good morning and happy Pride. Yes, it is June 29th, 2025. I'm Greg Johnson. I'm the president and CEO of GJP International, Greg Johnson Partnerships International, whose mission and focus is constantly uniting the world in caregiving. And that's another way of saying uniting the world in golden rule living. This is a very, very special day, and I am taping this actually on Friday because Saturday and Sunday I am very blessed to be asked to be participating in a number of services, in a number of very wonderful events, and then, of course, the exciting parade on Sunday. So I'm taping this ahead, but it's filled with enormous joy, for this has been a very special week. I mentioned it in the Hymns by Request program. Earlier in this week was the anniversary, the 14th, of the service that we had in memorial of my late husband, Joe Polacek. And it was on that day we had a delegation from the police department there because Joe had been one of the founding members of GOAL, the Gay Officers Action League. And for many, many years, he and I marched in the parade together. And as we were coming out of the church, one of the officials sent by the commissioner, which was a very kind thing, and he's been a very dear friend, came running up to me and said, "Greg, unbelievable news. Gay marriage has passed in New York." Well, that brought greater joy to me than anything because I've always felt Joe just needed to get there to move them along. That was his spirit, and that spirit lives on in a lot of people. And certainly as I think of Joe, I think of that powerful spirit. Then this week was the 10th anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision on gay marriage. And that was so exciting because, as I said to many people at that time, finally, finally, I can say the Pledge of Allegiance and be included with liberty and justice for all. Now, we're living in very difficult, very unsteady, very fascistic regime coming out of Washington. And I didn't know exactly what I was going to speak on today, but I always like to keep things as positive as can be, because in the insanity of the present is still the opportunity to find peace and to make statements using vehicles that speak to everyone. And yesterday, which would have been Thursday, I received an email from a very dear friend of mine in the theater. And in it was an incredible, incredible monologue that had been written by HARVEY FIERSTEIN for the gala that was held at the Kennedy Center. A group of private persons rented the space so that World Pride could have an event there. And HARVEY wrote this incredible, incredible monologue. And we know him from, of course, Torch Song's trilogy, from Hairspray, and so many other Broadway extravaganzas that have become part of the history and blessing, not only of the theater, but of the LGBT world. So I read it several times. It's a monologue done by a Jewish mother. She's having a phone conversation with her son, and his husband is obviously there by the way the dialogue goes. And I suddenly decided, there is nothing better than theater to express our feelings. And so, with all due respect and enormous gratitude to HARVEY, I'm going to read it to you. I'm not playing the role, though HARVEY would let me do that because he spent his life in drag on stage. So I shall just simply do this. And here we go. A mother dials her phone. Someone answers on the other end. "Good morning, darling. Don't tell me you're still sleeping. Impossible, today of all days. Well, put a light under it and get a move on, mister. I'm not missing the lineup, my favorite part of the whole day, with all of the uncontrollable energy shooting out in every direction. The newbies, barely able to keep themselves from floating out of their sandals in nervous anticipation. The veterans waving to each other, rushing to find their lineup spots, searching for their friends. Banners getting unfurled, balloons getting tied to floats. Everyone checking out everyone else's outfits and accoutrements. Tits hiked up, jocks inched down. Oh, your mother's old, but she's ain't dead yet. And I need to confess something. I know you boycott that place, but honestly, Hobby Lobby happens to have the best rainbow flags at the most reasonable prices. The clerks believe they don't know what they stand for, but when you check out, they definitely check you out. All to say, I'm coming well prepared. And she waves her rainbow flag. Speaking of which, my shoulder bag is fully loaded with sensible snacks. Nothing that will melt in the sun. You always say you're not hungry, but when the parade hits the 3rd mile, you've never turned down a little something from mother's purse. Speaking for myself, without that hit of sugar, no way in hell this ancient butt of mine makes it to the pier. And there is no way I'm sitting out that last turn onto Christopher Street with the cheering, the waving, and the screaming. Folks hanging from fire escapes, climbing the street signs, the streamers, confetti raining down. I'm telling you, if somebody could bottle that ecstasy, there'd be no need in the world for drugs, booze, war, or cable TV. But listen to me blathering on while you're still not dressed. Get off this phone, wash up, and I'll meet you in 20. Yes? Excuse me? Did you say no? Have I reached the wrong number? You're not doing the parade this year, my darling son. You and I have marched together every gay day since you stopped trying to convince us that Peter lived with you to help pay the rent. The room does not look right with 2 beds, but nothing is going on. Even your father, hard as he tried, could not force himself to swallow that load. Of course, now that you two have been married a few years, it's becoming more believable. What do you mean? There's not a point. Tell me, my darling, what is the point? There's no reason to march anymore? Of course I know you're married. I was at the wedding. Your father and I were the ones cheering that we'd finally gotten you unloaded. Kidding, my dear, kidding, with love. But is that all Stonewall is about to you? All this tumult just so you could register at Macy's? Do you suppose generations of activists marched in the streets, sued in the courts, were willing to be imprisoned, destroyed their families, lost their careers, endanger their very lives, so that you have the right to hire a bar mitzvah band? If that's all you wanted, you might have remembered your father and my anniversary once in your life and thrown us a catered affair. That might have been nice, but I might add. Hold on 1 second. I need to repeat what you just said to be certain I heard you correctly. The fight for equality is done. We have our rights. All we're doing now is throwing our queerness in the faces of people who don't want to know about it. Is that what you said? Let me tell you something, my dear son, and I use this at this moment, that phrase, in familiar terms, merely out of habit. You do not have your rights. What you have is a hodgepodge of court decisions and willy-nilly executive orders that can and have been easily reversed with a stroke of a moron's pen. If you had your rights, then the Philistine currently ripping up the White House rose garden could not have banned you from performing in a taxpayer-supported entertainment center like the Kennedy Center. If you had your rights, it would be against the law to discriminate you in housing and employment and in all 50 states, not just 21 in the District of Columbia. If you truly had your rights, your existence would no longer be a matter of any fool's opinion, and you would actually be considered just another natural being on the spectrum of humanity. That last remark, by the way, is clearly as true of the heterosexual rainbow of existence. In my life, I've met more straights deserving the title queer than any gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or Republican. But that's not the point. Point is, we go out on the street and show our faces en masse once a year just to remind them that no matter how loudly they shoot off their mouths, their guns, and their Bibles, our community is here, and we ain't going nowhere. But even more important, we show our faces publicly, proudly, loudly for those just coming to terms with their own identities and sexuality. They need to see that when they finally come out, they will not be alone. They will have millions of others to connect with, just as you had all those who came before and cushioned the landing for you. Not everyone is about ourselves. Sometimes the best we can do is to care for others. I thought I had taught you that from childhood. Forgive me for failing on that account. And so, having said all of that, you will now pick up your selfish ass, put on your gayest outfit that says, "I'm here, I'm queer, get over it," and meet me on the corner in 20 minutes. Yes? Good. And one more thing. Please tell Peter if he ever wants another slice of my brisket, he will be standing on the corner right next to you, smiling. Understood? Your 20 minutes begin now. She hangs up the phone and looks up at her higher power. Gay boys. Happy Pride.